And really, I'm just kind of going over, get licensed. Here's how you get licensed. Here's what the law says. Um, I mean, people are gonna do it or they don't. That's actually why I opened a new LLC, Gorilla, spelled a different way. I'm going to take 20% of every transaction, put it in that account. That allows me to pay unlicensed people because my licensed brokerage can't pay an unlicensed person. But if every transaction I move 20% over to a marketing company, I might make it PWP, I might make it whatever, but I move it to an unlicensed company. I can do what the hell I want with it.
That isolates your legal side with.
And no attorney will put it in black letter writing that says, no, you can't do it that way. But also nobody can point to me and say, wait a minute, if I can pay an ad agency, if I can pay WBRE, if I can pay whatever, why can't I pay a marketing? If I can pay a marketing, I can hire an ad agency. I can give them 20%. And when I was in advertising, we told every one of our clients, Lockheed Martin came to us, we're like, look, we want to keep 20 cents of every one of your ad dollars. Well, so that's a standard number.
Actually, if it's that long ago, it might be more than that now.
It might be, yeah. And of course, what we were saying was different. We were saying, if you're going to spend $100 million in advertising, we're keeping 20 million. So it wasn't 20% of Lockheed Martin's budget. It was our take home that we want to keep in house. But still, I mean, the general idea: if I do the same thing, 20% of every ticket we punch, puts it aside into a marketing company, and then they spend it. Maybe it was spent on direct mail. Maybe it was spent on whatever. At least I think at that point it would be not. The state might say don't do it, but they couldn't say there was a justifiable penalty. It would be reasonable reliance. Oh, speaking of reasonable reliance, Steve Farrell from Classic Properties, who came here and did that speech a few months ago,
he's the owner of.
Oh yeah. Back in August, when the other change came up, Steve Farrell owns Classic Properties.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And Classic bought Smith Horgan, not a small firm.
Oh yeah, yep.
He's now going to jail for a long time for coke. Apparently, they raided his house. The story I heard from Brian McCardle was he saw his house being raided on television, and he called the police and said, "I'll turn myself in. I'm coming in without weapons. Yada yada yada, whatever." Brian said bags and bags and bags of coke. Larry Delgrado said 3.8 grams, which is still a reasonable amount of coke, actually.
3.8 grams. That's personal use. I mean,
well, it must have been more than that because according to Larry and Brian, I know nothing about coke. According to Larry and Brian, the cops were like, "Are you dealing?" And Steve's like, "No, I'm just a really bad addict." But whatever. And I said to Larry, I said, "So should I buy his firm?" He's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, Steve's not keeping his license." Larry's like, he's got 7 associate brokers. He's like, all he has to do is remain owner and let one.
Now, was he the big wheel of the whole thing, or is someone above him?
No, he owns He is the owner of Classic Properties.
Horgan is pissing bullets. He's not.
Well, no, I think because I thought Horgan.
Well, Horgan may end up owning the damn thing.
Well, and that's what I said to Larry. I said, so what happened? Larry's like, what do you mean? He's like, all Steve has to do is Dave Horgan and Kevin Smith are there, as are, and Larry's like, he has 8 other associate brokers. So he's got like 9 or 10 broker licenses in the office. He picks one of them to be the managing broker, and Steve can remain the top. Remember, Miracle was never an agent or a broker, and Bob Miracle just hired a broker. So because I was half serious. Like, I'll buy Classic Properties.
When did all of that happen?
Apparently a week or so ago. I
haven't seen that anywhere. They kept the lid on that. But I don't watch a whole lot. I just watch YouTube now for the most part.
She sees Stephen Farrell, 54. That was December 27th. Oh wow. Wow.
Yeah, I saw. I walked through.
Back in the day, I was around a lot of people that had a lot of problems, and I used to like to dabble. He didn't strike me as someone. Usually, I could tell.
Yeah. I mean, I saw on his face, I'm like, this guy has had his share of coke, but I didn't think currently was having. You know, I mean, you're of a certain age. Partying was part of the game.
Yeah.
That was just it. You know, so
Yeah, that's okay. The carpet looks okay.
I mean,
The carpet looks okay.
I was
Really
blown away because he seemed
blue
so
except for the dining.
with it when he was the 4 or 5 times I've met him, so with it. And usually with a cokehead, with a current cokehead, there's those telltale signs.
Yeah, that's what we talked about.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're bad, you're keeping really, really, really weird hours.
Mhm.
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you may go a weekend with next to no sleep.
Well,
Yeah,
and
that's
Larry
what I
told
do.
me
Because
that over the last
Mary's gonna stay
6
in
months
her
or a
apartment,
year, he really hasn't been coming to the office. He would come in the office
and
randomly.
she's
Didn't
gonna
matter.
want
He's
her
got a
apartment
machine so big.
changed.
You know, he's got a staff. He's got this. He's got that. You know,
Yeah, but let's do
problem-
like room by room.
Yeah.
No matter where I'm at, you can call me.
you can call me, right? Yeah, and you know, at his level, I mean, he has 7 associate brokers and he has a staff and secretaries, and you know,
But don't
for
worry.
it to get to be that problem, it's kind of like back when you were running your company. If they had to call you, you were shit.
Especially if
Things were
you
shit.
can't read the carpet's open.
But no, I was blown away by that. You know,
Yeah, we can put laminate.
but I
in
guess
Larry's
you know,
apartment.
I mean, the story I heard from Larry was that you know he told the cops was that he's like I've been trying to kick this for a long time and I can't. You know, so maybe this will help him. You know, they'll go away for a few months or whatever it is, and
Okay, enjoy Florida. Bye bye. And he's in Florida.
I think we should go to Florida to see him.
Tonight would be a good night to be in
It'd be
Florida.
a very good night to be in
Although
Florida.
I hear Monette called me from Florida, and she said it's 47 degrees and she's freezing her ass off.
Oh, Emily's in South Carolina. She's like, it's 35. I'm like, I mean, that's slightly better than here. But,
47 degrees, I'd be walking around in a t-shirt, you know.
yeah.
My sister's in the last beach town in North Carolina. She's about a mile from the beach, and she's having a pool put in. And I talked to her the other night. I said, Marcia, I said, is your pool filled up with water? She goes, yeah. She goes, it's getting pretty cold today. I said, well, how cold? She goes, like, 20, in the low 20s. I said, well, as long as it's warming up during the day, I said, it's not going to freeze and cause damage. I said, as long as the lines are drained and the filter's drained, I said, you may get a thin coat of ice on top of it. That's not going to do anything. You need to be sub 32 for a period of time.
And of course, if she kept her pumps running, she'd probably even leave the lines.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know if they got to the point where
okay.
It's dug in the ground. The pool's
Kind of
in,
pre-filled.
the pool's filled. They still have like concrete work to do, and
Okay.
I don't know how close they are to finish.
I know my friend out in Boxford. He did this whole lighting thing, and the water jets going over his pool. And for the first 2 years that they ran it, he just left it running. He's like, it's actually just easier to leave it running. I guess when all the kids moved out, they stopped, whatever. But he's like, for the first 2 winters, they were cold winters.
Yeah. And hers is going to be salt water, so at that point you won't even have to worry about it. The salt water won't freeze, but I don't know that they have the salt solution in it yet.
Yeah. I've been in a saltwater pool, but I'm not sure how they are. They must destroy the equipment a lot faster.
I don't know. I don't know. It's supposed to be cheaper than all the chemicals you got to put in. I mean, you're still putting something in to keep the salt level up.
Right. Probably
I imagine you can't just go get a thing of Morton salt.
Just start throwing salt cubes in there. All of a sudden, the deer coming over and drinking your pool. But yeah, so I'm gonna see if anybody logs on. If nobody logs on, we'll just chat about whatever. But if anybody's out there, I guess just jump on the YouTube and just tell me you're out there. There's only one of us here. So. Yeah, so what's new with you? You still buying more? Or?
No, at this point, for the first time ever, I had 3 vacancies. So I got two of them filled. The one house has never gone back over yet, hasn't been remodeled since I owned it. So the girl, she went out, her and her boyfriend bought a house. So I told my guy, I said, take all of January. I said, go through it, give it what it needs to be done to spruce it up, and I'll worry about getting that rented in March probably.
Okay, that's
But
good.
I've been gearing more towards the stock market because I want a couple extra other streams of guaranteed. I mean, I've got a couple of mortgages now on a mortgage on a house I sold in Nanticoke. We got a mortgage on some land that we sold. I have the 14 rental houses. So if I can get the stock end of things up, that way more streams are,
Yeah, kind of
passive
diversify
income.
across that.
I'm just looking at like dividend producing
Yeah.
ETFs and whatnot. So
Yeah.
ones that pay monthly.
Yeah. So, and somebody was calling me about, oh, you should do oil, buy oil because of the huge tax write-offs, huge this, huge that. I'm not sure I'm an oil level player, and I'm not sure that I understand it enough. Like that's a whole different level of, his thing isn't oil commodity. His thing is like own a piece of an oil field. And I'm like, all right, that is a whole new universe that I just.
Yeah, I mean, that's not so. To me, I mean, I think it's probably more lucrative, but there'd be a lot more upfront work for me to feel confident.
That's the problem.
Before I.
And his whole pitch was, well, Trump is going to do this, and I'm like, I'm not buying anything based on Trump might do something.
Well, and the fact that the problem is Trump can come in and do that, but if the Republicans don't stay in charge, the next Democrat,
right,
with green energy is going to come in and undo everything he did.
Well, that, and also let's be honest, whether you like him or hate him, he's not that much consistent with what he says and what he actually does.
Yeah.
So I'm going to buy it because he says it, and then he goes from let's lower the price of eggs to let's buy Canada.
Yes. No, I mean, I don't know. I haven't been watching it. I know he has press conferences a couple times a week. I find them entertaining, but I haven't watched them. Someone said he plans on annexing Greenland.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what the hell's in Greenland?
So the man who, the man who wants to bring manufacturing back to America didn't choose to manufacture his Bibles, his shoes, or anything else in America. So it doesn't really show a lot of consistency. We want to lower the price of eggs, so we're going after Greenland, Canada, Panama Canal, and renaming the Gulf of Mexico.
Well, the Panama Canal I can see because it's actually. Do you know who operates both ends of it?
Yeah.
China.
Oh yeah.
So I can see them. I mean, it was ours. We gave it somehow. It was ours. We gave it back to them, and they somehow farmed it out to China. So I could actually, and I would support him going in and saying, if Panama, if you can't operate this yourself, we'll take it back and we'll operate it. The Chinese
Except, do we have the legal right to even begin that conversation?
Huh?
Do we have the legal right?
Yes, I believe we do.
But yeah, but now renaming the Gulf of Mexico. I'd like someone to tell me.
That's symbolic.
First of all, who has the right to name? I mean, it's been the Gulf of Mexico since the Spanish owned Texas. So, can we just stick to one crazy idea at a time? Yeah. Let's annex Canada and Greenland. What does that
mean?
do?
The Central String Expressway, they can rename the Gulf of
Well,
Mexico.
And isn't Greenland the one that's frozen?
Yeah.
Don't we want Iceland?
Yeah.
Isn't that the better one to have? We're going to go after something.
See, I thought they named it that to fool you.
I mean, I hope some of what he says comes true, but Greenland.
But I did see the Prime Minister of Canada step down. And,
well, Kelly said he's been kind of on the ropes for a while.
And that's it. And I know Trump was a little mean to him. When they came and he tried to play tough guy, and I think Trump said, well, we'll annex you, and you could be the governor of the state of Canada.
He just let's work on lowering prices and bringing manufacturing back. Let's stay to that. But no, so for those of you, I got a couple people out there to kind of run through the new Pennsylvania state law on wholesale. And PAR, in its infinite wisdom, had a training on the law today, the law that went into effect last Saturday, the law that they now claim they wrote, even though Danny tells me they didn't. But whatever. And basically what it says is in order to wholesale, which is any sale of equity of property you do not hold title to for money. I guess you can take cookies, do that, take cookies. But that's wholesale. Novations, power of attorney, all of that falls under any sale of equity for money. There are some people arguing there are some loopholes, but that's generally the idea. and have to be licensed. That is units 1 through 5, single family to small multi residential. You're a mixed use, you're a office building, you're anything, doesn't count. I mean, basically, anything mixed, anything commercial, land, self-storage, you don't have to be licensed for that stuff. The law has 4 requirements that need to be in the agreement. I'm just pulling these up now. That need to be in the agreement. The most egregious one. So the first one is you have to tell. You don't have to tell people that you're buying them for less than their worth. Now keep in mind, we're a licensed real estate broker. I'm supposed to be honest and ethical, but I don't have to tell you that I'm buying your house for less than I could find another buyer for. Doesn't sound like that's honest or ethical. As a licensed real estate broker, I cannot do what's called a net listing, which is you want to sell your house, I can put for $100,000. You want to walk with $100,000. I say, great. You sign for $100,000. Anything over $100,000, I get to keep. I can't do that as a licensed broker and list you. I can do a wholesale agreement and do the exact same thing. And Pennsylvania Association of Realtors said to me, yeah, but that's a different piece of paper. I said, do you think grandma really knows the difference?
Yeah. Are they going to allow wholesale listings onto the MLS? Or
that's a board by board. Scranton has said no. Bright is debating it. Most boards are going to say no, because the reason is most boards are going to say no. Now, some boards have been doing it. Some boards have been allowing brokers to list novations. But the problem is on the MLS, the question is whether the seller has authorized the advertising of their property on that venue. So I think most boards are saying no. And most of the big brokerage firms like Classic, EXP, C21, nationally, they said no wholesale. And in the PAR wholesale or meeting today, they spent 45 minutes patting themselves on the back and naming everyone and their brother and their, lover partner who made this all possible and saved the world from wholesaling. And 15 minutes telling us they really don't have anything to teach us because they're refusing to get involved. But they don't want wholesaling in the business. And what has happened is that I kind of lost my train there, but basically the boards are going to say no, and the big brokerage firms are going to say no for the reason that PAR brought it up, and they did a big push. They spent 5 minutes of this hour-long call, 45 of which they wasted patting themselves on the back, saying, well, why would you want to wholesale? Why, as a broker, would you want to bother with this? Why would you want this? Why would you want that? So definitely PAR is not a pro wholesale. They have not provided us and will not provide us with contract because they say, well, there's no way to fit every situation. I don't know why they can't take the 4 points that have to be in the contract, stick it into an addenda and give it to us. So the 4 points that have to be in every transaction, the first one is that this is a wholesale transaction and I plan to make money on this deal. Okay, that's a good one. Fine. The consumer has the right to obtain an appraisal after signing. So you sign with me, you have the right to get an appraisal and then cancel with me. You have the right, I don't know why this had to be a separate right. You sign with me, you have 30 calendar days from the day you sign, unless we close before 30, to change your mind and walk away for any reason. You have the right to get legal counsel. You have the right to get refunded of your payments, any payments you make. I don't know why a seller would pay a wholesaler or a broker for anything anyway, but whatever. Now, here's where it gets extra dangerous, and I didn't realize this was part of the law. Those 4 rights also transfer to the buyer, meaning what the 30-day right
after it closes?
No, when it closes, it's done.
Okay.
But if 30 days or closing, whichever comes first. But we have to reimburse both parties for all their fees or expenses if somebody cancels. The buyer doesn't get any more time to cancel, the seller does. But if the seller cancels, the buyer can come after me for their title fees. for their inspection fees, for their this fees, for their that fees. Now, there's nothing stopping me on the buyer side from waiving, hey, I am not responsible for these fees. What, again, they did not write this in such a way, they literally refused. I tried with the State House on a very minor level, and I tried very hard with PAR legal, whatever, legislative committee. I'm like, look, there's me, there's Mike Toludo, there's, Paul, there's 5 or 6 brokers who wholesale. Get one of us in front of your committee, learn from us. They refused. So they didn't have the benefit of licensees, brokers who wholesale. They refused to take that benefit. So I don't think they realized when they wrote this part that they're going to be saddling their members with paying off someone's title insurance. They won't, because I'm going to waive that out of the, because I'm not allowed to waive on the seller side, but I'm allowed to waive on the buyer side. But the point is that any expenses that the seller incurs, if he decides to cancel, he's not responsible to repay.
So in other words, from day 0 to day 30, he's whole. If on the last hour on day 30, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Whatever he's out of pocket comes back to him.
Now, it's again clear as mud. There's nothing stating that his appraisal cost is my responsibility. Basically, it's saying that I can't cost him any money. It doesn't say that I'm responsible for his appraisal cost. But it says that if he's paid me for any services, which I don't know what that is, but basically what it really says, the words, to me, the words sound, and they did not correct this. I don't owe him for his appraisal. I don't owe him for his holding costs, for his whatever. It means that if he cancels on day 30, I can't say, well, wait a second, I have $1,000 in marketing. I want you to pay me my $1,000 in marketing. I can't charge, if my agreement says that I get to charge $1,000 marketing transaction when this thing closes, if he cancels, I can't charge him. That's really what they're trying to do. And okay, that's fine. What's strange is the 30-day right of rescission, which is right to change your mind. If I write a listing contract, now people can cancel listing contracts, yes, but there's no 30-day right of cancellation.
Yeah, does that still go right up to, like you said, back when this was first being proposed? They could be at the closing table. Here's the pen, sign, and he says no.
If it's under before midnight on the 30th day, literally, you can be walking in the closing table and somehow the seller finds out what political party or religion or car you drive or hat you wear. There's not
that you're
be,
making X.
There's no justifiable reason why he can not.
He doesn't. It's sort of like with an eviction.
Yeah.
If it's on proper notice, I want you
you
don't have to give a reason.
Yeah. And okay, if you want to say, because some of them are wholesalers of the devil, they're horrible, whatever. You want to say that's great. Timeshares, which is pretty much the real estate version of the devil.
Yeah, you only got 10 days there.
7.
No, it's 10.
It's 10? Yeah. Anyway, but I've never done a timeshare and I don't intend to.
No,
but
I had to learn that on the test. So I know it's 10.
You took your test a lot more recently than I did.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, like, the real estate version of the devil is 10 days.
Yeah.
Okay. There isn't an industry. I had 2 attorneys look into this. In the country, no industry has a 30-day right of changing your mind. Some people offer 30-day back guarantees, money back, whatever, but they're not required to by law. Who the hell? And the only reason the PAR put that in there, they'll never admit this because I try to get them to, is the same. Okay, so I sign a wholesale agreement. I put it up there at 50 grand. Everyone knows I'm wholesaling it. Everyone knows I have it for under 50. So now Jake goes to that person and offers them, oh, Steve's got you at 40, I'll go to 45. The realtor goes and says, I got somebody who'll pay you 50 right now. You cancel that agreement, you go with me, I got somebody right now. It's totally designed to undermine the wholesale process.
Yeah, it's almost like the Wild Wild West.
Yeah. And it's totally tilted toward realtors. It's not even, I mean, you can't even say it's tilted toward licensed agents because any residential agent is a realtor. So the way we we can sign a listing agreement with this person. One example is I can sign a listing agreement if I decide I want to make 10 grand on your house. Sign a listing with you at 60. You've agreed to 50. Sign a listing with you at 60, 10,000 fee. Here's a brokerage agreement. There is no right of rescission. You can't change your mind. You can cancel, but I have a listing agreement. You can't change it. You can't change. You can cancel. You can't change your mind. There's no 30-day bullshit. Or, and this is the one that somebody on the web Facebook chat I'm on came up with, is I put a normal purchase and sale agreement with you. And it's a little gray. I'd have to do this. So the wholesale law says with the intention to wholesale.
The intention to.
The intention to wholesale. So, okay, well, I didn't intend. If I have the intention to wholesale, these clauses have to be in my contract. If I have the intention to buy you, these clauses don't have to be in the contract. So, like I go to them and I say, listen, I'm going to put an and/or science contract in front of you, but I don't intend to wholesale it. I just haven't decided which company I'm going to buy it. I'm not intending to wholesale, therefore I don't need these clauses. Then I go to the buyer, because the whole definition of wholesaling is selling of equity for money as part of the closing. So I go to the buyer and say, listen, I have this house at 50. You want to give me 60 on this house? Yeah, be fine. I'm going to give you a contract at 60 and a loan for 10, and you're going to pay that loan off 24 hours after closing. I'm not taking the money at closing. In a theory, untested, no case law, no nothing, that gets you around it. Or, okay, I'm going to give you this house for 50. If you pay
That
me,
works good if it's cash. What if it's a loan? Then your 10,000 loan would be below the main mortgage.
well, except very few wholesales go with a loan,
Okay.
like almost like less than 10%. But also, mine wouldn't be a property loan. Mine would be a personal loan to the buyer. And in the theory, the way Jordan laid it out, you would have the buyer put that 10,000 the day of closing would be an escrow with an escrow company. So you know it's there 24 hours. When your 24-hour clock is up, you know it's there.
I was just going to say, because it's easy to walk away from a personal loan. I mean, that's,
And also a loan. I mean, I don't like the loan plan because loan becomes a whole, it's a mortgage paperwork thing. I would rather call it an education fee. I'm going to sell you the house for 50, and you're going to give me a $10,000 education fee for having educated you about this deal. So the whole point is that there's a seeming loophole, and Jake is absolutely, this. I don't know which one of these loopholes he uses, but he's very absolutely confident that these loopholes are there. Jake chose not to get licensed. Jordan went and got licensed. Jordan's with a broker, wholesaling under a broker. We've been having debates about, and the law is so poorly written. Jordan's broker and I have been, and Jordan have been playing phone tag, trying to decide: is it the brokerage firm that is the buyer on the contract, or is it the licensee that's the buyer on the contract?
Are there any other states that tried to regulate this?
There are other states who have tried to regulate it. Good question. But yeah, there are. And so when I was talking to the people at the State House, all they wanted to know was what other states, they're like, could you get us all the other states? I said, no, I said, you have staff to contact the other state houses.
Now, I'm just wondering, it seems like it's done so, like there wasn't enough research done. So if other states are doing it and doing it maybe better than this, if they would have taken a little bit of time, they would have learned 2 or 3 things.
Well, yes, and they claim they research other states, and I know a little bit about the state laws, and I know that Wisconsin, I think, has a pretty stable one, but they didn't have to go very far. Philadelphia's law is great. They could have taken Philadelphia's wholesale law and said, this is the state rule. You have to register with just like a building inspector. You have to register with L&I and say, I'm a wholesaler. You have to have an E&O policy. You have to tell people they're getting less for their house. And you have to do a couple other like honesty disclosure things. And that's it. And you have to pay the city like $200. But there's none of this other crap. There's no need for a license. Now, this is how bad it is. I got a Philly wholesaler when I on one of my posts. He's like, what are you bitching about? You go pay L&I $200 and you move on. And I'm like, okay, that's the Philly law. He's like, okay. He's like, but I don't wholesale outside of Philadelphia County. I said, correct me if I'm wrong. Philadelphia County is in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, right? I was like, yeah. I said, guess whose law supersedes Philadelphia County's? He's like, but I only do it here. I said, yeah, but here is inside of there.
Yeah.
I think you might have skipped some classes in school. But so, I mean, they really did a very poor job. Now, at the end of the video, and I can share this video, anybody that wants to see it, they talked about some things and said, well, the State House is going to have to finish writing additional regulations on how to process this. For example, how you handle the fee, how you disperse the fee, and how you manage the fee. And so I immediately shot off an email. And so we're all on this Facebook chat group, me and Jake and Jordan and a few other, I don't know who, well, it's all on there. And I'm texting in. I'm like, okay, guys, I'm sending this question because they shut down comments. There was no text, no chat, no nothing. It was all a one way. We should all 20 of us on this chat send the exact same set of questions. My question was, okay, so the law's already out, the horse is already out of the barn, and now you're telling me to lock the gate. But you're not telling me how to lock the gate. I'm supposed to follow this law, and you're not, and there's no case law or law on how I'm supposed to handle the fees. And you're telling me there might be ways that are not correct to handle the fees. How can I do it correctly? And how can you punish me for not doing it correctly if you didn't tell me what's correct? They also have something in for licensed agents, the only piece of paper you have to use that the state gives you, and you cannot change it. Kelly, which one is that?
Consumer notice.
You better have it for everybody. Well, the CN, you can't change it. The CN doesn't say anything about wholesaling. Am I required to give a CN to people for wholesaling that doesn't apply? Is all about buyer's agent, seller's agent, da-da-da? Or do I give them a CN and then say, well, ignore all of this because none of this has anything to do with what we're doing? Now, what I'm going to start doing is giving them the CN and giving them the addenda, which says, ignore the CN, it doesn't do anything. Here's the information you need to know, which contains these 4 points. Because I'm not allowed to take the words of, I actually took the words of the CN and put it into and added some wholesale crap. And this is back when I was still at Danston, and Bob's like, you can't change the CN. You can't change it. You can't touch it. So we're out here now with a law that was very poorly thought through. And with apparently loopholes you can drive a truck through. And the fee thing doesn't bother me. I mean, he might have just been off the top of his head, you know, kind of spitballing, hey, this kind of a lack of clarity thing. Doesn't bother me because I'm just going to follow the procedures. I'm going to consider it case law. I signed with my agent. He gets 90%. So, and also, no, I was visited by a ghost of Christmas past before Christmas, around December 17th. I had to have a visit. Now, this is before the law went into effect. One of my sellers over the summer who decided to go dark after we had everything set. We were done with title. Betty done it. We were ready to close. We had a buyer. She goes dark. I sue her in small claims court. She calls the state examiner. He comes out and examines us. We do our whole dog and pony show. So the stack of documents this thick, give him the whole story. And I said, so what do you know about SB 1173? He's like, what? The state wholesaling order. I said, what? The one that's going to affect January 8th. He hadn't been trained on it. Now, the state examiners, the board, the real estate board examiners and inspectors, they inspect us, mortuaries, hairdressers, timeshares, and something else. They're not real estate experts. So you expect these poor middle management bureaucrats, I'm not putting them down, this is what the role is.
No, if one day you're walking through a hair salon making sure that there's hot water, and the next day, you know.
Yeah, and you're going to dump this on these guys now, and with apparently, I didn't understand how, I mean, I thought the law was pretty vague, but I apparently didn't understand the level of its vagueness. What are these poor people going to do? And he even told me, he's like, guys, just so you know, he's like, I'm the information collector. Because we said to him afterwards, you know, Ryan and I are like, well, what's it look like? He's like, looks like I got my file filled. I said, well, that doesn't, he's like, I don't make the decision. He's like, I'm not even in the room that makes the decision. He's like, I collect the data. So when he gets called to go visit a wholesaler on this, he doesn't know what questions to ask. So he's just going to take the whole kitchen sink because his job is to make sure he's got a bucket full of info. So the only way to stay totally safe, and this is not a hard way. I am telling everyone, and I've been telling everyone for a long time, I don't know why everyone in real estate who's at all doing transactions to third parties doesn't get licensed. Understand the first thing. PAR never wants you to know the deep, dark secret. You don't have to be a realtor. There's one agent in this room that's not a realtor because the realtor is a club. It is, you get your license and then you decide if you're going to join the club. You buy a car and then you might join AAA. That's what this is.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a AAA member to have a car or to have a license. So you spend $200 for an online course, $500 for Larry, $500 for Dave Wychalk. You take their course. You take, I would recommend the CE Shops practice exams. You do that. You spend a couple $100 to get your license and a couple $100 a year to keep your license active. And then you're legal. And you sign on with a broker. And yeah, you give up some money to the broker. I start off wholesalers at 70. I start off at listings at 75. You go up to 90.
Do you have anybody signed on that's actually going to be out hitting the bricks doing this?
Oh, I probably have 12 calls that I need to return, and I've got 4 people who are waiting to finish their classes and coming on board. And apparently I've heard of 4 other brokerage firms around the state that are focusing on wholesalers. Plus, there's, you know, like Max Melito went with a large commercial enterprise. Max had a very, very large wholesale division. And he went with a large commercial enterprise. So there are brokers who are accepting wholesalers. And then there are a few of us who are kind of focusing on it. You know, but a lot of brokers are saying, hell no, get away. Also, I pay 30% referral fees to brokers or agents who send me from other agencies wholesales. And I'll pay you a 3% buyer's agency if you bring the buyer side. And people say, well, 30%. Well, 30% is larger than most realtors pay each other. But you got to remember, in the wholesale world, if you sell a $100,000 house, in the retail world, you got a 3% seller's agent or buyer's agent commission if you're lucky. That's $3,000. In the wholesale world, a small average fee for NEPA, 10, 15 grand. So if you're taking home, 70, 80% of 15 grand, it's a lot better than taking home 70, 80% of $3,000. If you're taking a 30% referral fee on 15 grand, you're making $5,000 for giving your name and number. So,
Yep.
So, anybody got any questions? YouTube world, anybody? All right, yeah, contact info. You guys probably see me on Facebook. That's how you found this. But the best thing is 570-798-7051. Text me. I'll get you hooked up. I will be on the road a lot on Friday, so you can call me after about three or so. You can call me pretty much. I've got to do a training class down there, but pretty much anytime Friday night or whatever. And it's really not hard to join. Now, I am expecting to be able to continue to pay unlicensed people through the marketing company. But my feeling is you're making a huge mistake if you stay unlicensed, because the most I can pay you is 10 or 15%, maybe 20, as opposed to 80, 90, or 100. And the last thing I want everyone to understand is what the Real Estate Licensing Act says you can't do if you're not licensed. The reason I can only pay you the itty bitty money, besides the fact the state says I can't, is if you're an unlicensed, let's say, secretary at a real estate office, and you answer the phone and I say, how much is that apartment? Well, sir, you can go to our website and see the price. How many bedrooms? Well, here's a brochure. The secretary can't answer those questions. The unlicensed person at an open house. Now, forget unlicensed people can't negotiate with buyers, can't negotiate with sellers, can't have anything what the state calls, it's very lame word, substantive real estate discussions. I'm unlicensed and I'm standing in an open house, which is dicey to have an unlicensed person running your open house, but it's legal as long as they keep their bleeping mouth shut.
Yeah.
You're standing in a ranch house.
Flyers are there.
Yeah. But the example I use, you're standing in a ranch house. There's one bathroom, there's another bathroom, there are 3 bedrooms. How many bathrooms are in the house? That's all I can do. I can't answer the question. I'm not even sure I'm legally able to point at the bathrooms. So because when Kevin Mall from PA Investment Group, when he first heard of the law, and he might have found somebody who's willing to do this, Kevin said to me, he's like, I want to give you $250 a month, and I want to give you $1,000 per transaction, and I'll just run my business as normal. I said, Kevin, you had me until the part, and I don't want to be licensed. I said, you had me until that last sentence. I said, as much as I trust you, you're a great guy, you're honest, I know you would never do anyone wrong. If it ever comes out that I'm letting you, that you're doing unlicensed activity or licensed activities or licensee under my, I know you're not going to screw up. You're a really honest guy. You're great, but I can't.
Yeah. Well, and that's the problem with that is, he may be the person that he's dealing with may not be.
Right. And we have to realize that right now, the way they've set this up, it's kind of like I joke about the red ants and the blue ants in a jar. You shake, they're going to fight each other. Well, that's what they've set this up as. Wholesalers are going to call in other wholesalers. Realtors are going to call in wholesalers. They're going to call in each other. The state's going to be inundated with these kinds of calls. Bob Vanson, back during COVID, was my broker at the time. During the shutdown, during the you can't even go to a vacant house alone time period, it was very weird. Bob is parked in front of his building that he owns in Clarkson. Knock, knock, state inspector. State inspector said to Bob, I see you're doing real estate activity. Bob said, what do you mean? You're not allowed to do real estate activity. He said, no. Well, you're here in your brokerage office. Yes, I am. I'm here in the building that I own, in the office that I own. What are you doing? I don't know. Maybe I'm washing the floor. Or maybe I'm with my wife. What prove now you got to prove to me that I was doing real estate. That's what's going to happen. And Bob says to the guy, he's like, well, how'd you find out? He's like, another agent called you in. I can't tell you who. We're going to be not we're going to be, but there's going to be people calling each other in. And so if you think you're going to run your business as usual and no one's going to notice, they're going to notice. And I feel badly for the sellers because I'm going to sign up. You're in a desperate spot. You're in a motivated spot. We'll use a nice word. And let's face it, we're not wholesaling with people who have all the time. We're not wholesaling with people who have luxury or whatever.
Otherwise, it would be a listing.
Otherwise, it'd be a listing. Now, unfortunately, because the realtors have really badmouthed themselves and ruined their own reputation, I have two wholesales right now where I said to them, please list. I won't deal with the realtor crap. I won't deal with listing crap. It's just too much BS, too much data. So, and these people have no pressure, but you're under pressure. I signed an agreement with you. I marked it properly. Then Jake approaches you, and he hits a couple grand above my number. So you cancel with me and start the clock with him. Kelly approaches you, cancel with, start the clock with her. So no one actually has your property out there long enough to find a buyer. Meanwhile, the real clock in your life is ticking away.
Yeah.
Whatever that clock is.
Sheriff said, yeah.
Yeah.
Got 30, at 30, the third Tuesday of the month, it's going.
Yeah. And that's bad enough now. I had one, she called us on Monday, Sunday or Monday, and she's like, well, we're going to sheriff's sale on the 8th. I said, well, let me stop you right now. I said, the only thing that's going to save you is a listing agreement. Or because even a contract to sale, I'm going to have more due diligence time than the bank is going to give. I said, I don't know why you waited. Like, that's just kind of silly. But yeah, I mean, basically, so they've set up a system, and like you said, either they didn't research the other laws, or maybe the other laws are worse. I don't really know a lot about the other laws. So we have the wholesalebroker.com is our back office website for whether you're a wholesaler in Pennsylvania or another state. We have different back office services we can provide. In PA, wholesalebroker.com basically is guerrilla real estate. You're going to join my brokerage firm. We don't have any money. fees. We don't have any of that crap. We give you all the tools. We give you access to our data, software, our CRM, whatever you need. Use your own CRM. I don't care. And you're only paying commission per transaction. And I will also pay you back up to $500 for your schooling out of your first 2 transactions. So out of the first 2 transactions, I take $250 out of my money, and I pay second transaction, I pay the second half of your schooling. Some agents out there are going to pay for your schooling up front. I'm sorry, I'm not that generous. I'm generous enough to pay you back when you make me money.
Yeah. Yes. Show me you can do it.
Yeah. Because I mean, frankly, I'm not in a situation where if I write, 20 people's courses and none of them do anything, that's 10 grand I'm not happy to lose, or whatever. So, just give me a call if you have any other questions, but it's the way it is. The only thing that we're trying to change now is we're trying to set up 3 things, as this is the little clique of wholesalers, and we're trying to figure out how to do it. One is there's a little bit of talk about doing something like the Independent Investors Association, which is our own little networking, I guess, our version of PAR. And we're trying to figure out if we actually want to take steps on that. But I do have that association to become a little bit of a club of our own. Because had we had that with an ethics standard and whatever, this wouldn't have happened. The second thing, and please just message me, I'll hook you guys up. We are looking to crowdfund. We are looking for wholesalers to put a little bit of money in each to pay for lobbyists or some effort to change the 30-day right of rescission rule. So if you're a wholesaler, whether you want to play it right, you want to play it with me, you want to play it another way, contact me. We'll plug you into that equation. And the third equation is we're also considering crowdfunding for the defense fund, to set aside some money in a GoFundMe or something that when one of us gets nabbed who's doing it right, there's a pile of cash. Because the reality is when they nail someone, they're going to nail hard. Even Dave Wychuck said that last month.
Yeah, the first handful are going to be examples.
Yep.
And I worry about your friend Jordan.
No, Jordan's got a license.
It would be
But
Jordan, right?
isn't he talking about all these loopholes?
We were kicking around options, but Jordan's doing it right. There are some other guys in the group who are not. But thankfully, the guys in the group are going to be safe because those who are doing it a different way, and I'm not saying they're not doing it right, but they're wealthy enough to simply buy the property. They don't need to wholesale. They can do it as a double close. They can do it as whatever they want. They have the money. The guys I worry about are, and I'm going to pick on you, Chris, but Chris Marinari, if you're not getting licensed and you're trying to do it,
go out beating down the doors, and you find 3 old ladies who are in a tough situation.
Yeah. And Chris, I'm not picking on you like you do the business wrong. I'm not calling you out as being a bad guy, but without knowing you, I doubt you have the assets of a Jake or Jordan when the wolf comes to your door to pay for the kind of lawyers you need to fight the PAR and the State House.
Yeah, even if they come at you with a BS lawsuit, you still have to defend them.
I haven't got the assets to fight the PAR. I don't have the assets to fight the State House. And also, I'm not going to do it wrong because if I get pinched on my broker's license, there goes Crimson. There goes just hired a broker, but whatever.
I'll replace you.
No, I'll replace it because it's my company. But basically, so those are the guys that I'm worried about, is the ones who are going to be out there and who are going to get
sort of on the fringe.
Yeah, if you're a Jake Arnold or a Josh Axe, you can simply buy the property and to do it 1,000 different ways. And if you've got a buyer's list that Jake and Josh have, and I had this conversation with someone.
Because quite frankly, if you do it, if you say, okay, I'll just buy the property, it's cost, what? Another 2%, 1%, 1% in, 1% out, right?
Well, but the trick is that, so if you're and I don't know if Jake or Josh are doing it this way, but I'll pick on them. You put it under contract, you send it out to your buyer's list. You don't do a wholesale contract, do a regular one. The logic might be that you won't get caught because you're not marketing your property on Facebook. You are selling equity for money, but if no one finds you,
it's all private emails.
No harm, no foul. And Jake and Josh have attorneys. I'm sure they've checked into this, and I don't doubt that they're correct. But you have to have that buyer's list. you have to have, which I have the buyer's list, and I can do the same thing, but you also have the assets, you have to have the assets and the ability to close on. So that sets a bar only for the larger sizes, my size, larger, whatever. There's a certain level you can do it. You're the newbie, you're the small operator, or maybe you've been making enough to pay your living, but not making enough to put away $100,000. You're stuck. And
even if you have 100,000, you're more or less at that point. You're capped at one at a time.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go out, beat around. Well, I'd like to be able to help you, but I can't do it for 3 weeks until this one closes.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where they're doing it right. Whether doing it with the wholesale agreement, whether doing it with a listing agreement, whether doing it with, and I don't doubt that those definitional things of, do the loan, do the consulting, but, and she did not use these words, but last May I had a conversation with one of the lawyers over at PAR Hotline. And what I came away with was, if it looks like a duck, it walks like a duck, we're going to shoot, basically. So you can do a definitional, you can do a, well, I didn't get paid on the day of closing, I get paid the next day. All right, they're going to take aim and see what the shotgun catches.
If they're serious about this, the first handful are going to be examined.
Yeah. And they're serious about it. I mean, PAR, this was their legislative priority. I know somebody from one of the boards, of local board president, who went down for their annual day stumping at the State House. And he got down there and found out that this was what they were stumping for, and he refused. He was so pissed that they didn't tell him ahead of time this is what they were stumping for. There was one PAR member on the Hill that refused to stump for this law. I don't know who it is, but I got a good suspicion. But PAR wants this because it benefits their membership. Now, PAR is also in favor of their larger enterprises. So they're, the KWs and the EXPs. That's very much who PAR. They're okay with us smaller guys, but EXP pays a lot of dues. KW, C21, they pay a lot of dues. So they're a dues-based organization. They're going to go with their money base. So I mean, it's the reality is it's a law we're here for. It's a law we're stuck with. We'd like people's help in trying to change that 30-day right of rescission. The rest of it can stay. The rest of it's kind of innocuous. You want to pay $600 for the appraisal you weren't willing to pay for 2 weeks ago? Go for it. I just don't want to put 30 days into a property and have them say that they don't like my socks that day. I think they should at least have a reason. I have to have a reason if I want to cancel a contract. I can't just wake up and cancel for no good reason. I have to go by my due diligence rules wherever I put in the contract. So that's it. And other than that, although this year is starting off pretty good with, I mean, it's slowed down now a little bit, but the first, the last couple of weeks of the year, the first couple of weeks of this year have been pretty good with people calling in with deals. So people are getting a little more motivated to sell. I got a lot of good multis for sale, and a few of them are seller finance if anybody's looking for anything. And if you want to buy the birdhouse, you can buy that one too. That's
the Nanico
Fairchild Nanico, yeah.
That's been going on forever, hasn't it?
Well, he actually called me today. Like, look, you doing this or not? I said, listen. I said, I want the property, and this is a sweet deal. I don't understand this actually.
Yeah, it's different. They were going to go in where, what's his name that comes to the meetings here from Mountain Top.
Yeah.
Then went somewhere else.